In March of 2025, I launched a beta cohort called Inbound Sales Ninja with Daniel Bustamante, and we sold out all 30 spots in the first 48 hours. We initially had a 7-day launch window planned, but obviously, because it lasted 2 days, we didn't finish the 7 days. Something unique about this was it was application based as well. It wasn't just anybody could buy. So if we would have just let anybody buy, good chance we would have sold out in 24 hours or faster than we did. So what I want to walk you through is the actual curriculum that we taught in this Inbound Sales Ninja, basically teaching people how to get leads from LinkedIn. And we talked about generating content. We talked about social selling. And then we talked about using email to generate leads as well. And basically the entire ecosystem of how to generate leads, because there's a lot of LinkedIn 101 courses, basically how to go viral, how to post consistently, so on and so forth, but not something that ties all the pieces together to help you actually, generate revenue for your business. So I'll walk you through the 8 modules of the curriculum, and I'll give you one takeaway from each module. And then what I'll do after that is I'll share the things that we did well, Daniel and I did well leading this cohort, and then a couple of improvements that we can make and will make going forward. All right, let's dive in. So this is the curriculum. You can see there's 7 modules and a bonus. The reality is there's 2 modules within module 5. We just didn't split it out here. And then the bonus was just something that we thought would be useful for everybody. And so we wanted to over deliver and we created that as well. This was a beta cohort, so there's several upgrades that we'll make, but let's go through it. Module 1 was revenue generating LinkedIn posts, part 1. So in this one, we covered the highest revenue generating type of post, which is case studies. There's data backed. This is data backed. Like case studies are what get people over the line, help them make a decision. And so I'm just going to share a takeaway for you, which is document all of the data of your clients, where they were at before working with you. So in my case, since I do LinkedIn content for people, I document where their business is at in terms of revenue, like their lead flow, what that looks like, what their followers are like, what their email subscribers are like. And that way, on a monthly basis, I can update those and see the differences that we're making. And then I could go and look back and I could look at the inflection points, like what really made a difference here to help them get a good result. And if you just track this data, it solves like a huge percentage of your problems. I say 99, it's probably closer to 90. We'll switch it to 90 because you still have to create the post. But having the data just makes it so much easier. And these are the highest converting content type. Module 2. So this was the second highest type of converting content that I've personally experienced after, writing thousands of posts, which is pitch in public posts. And kind of the backup here is if you can't pitch your prospects in public, which there are some niches where it's difficult, then you find a public asset and you break that down on a weekly basis. And so the takeaway for you is to find an asset that you can break down on a consistent and repeatable basis. In my case, I'll do LinkedIn profile breakdowns. Some people do YouTube thumbnails. Some people do landing page. Some people do profit and loss statements. It's a great way to consistently prove your expertise. Module 3 was social selling funnels. So we put together 7 social selling funnels, basically ways to convert people on LinkedIn in the DMs and using the tools that LinkedIn has. So not even taking them to email, but just selling them directly in the DMs. And there's 7 different ones, like I said. And depending on where you're at with your business, kind of helps you decide which ones you should choose. But what I'll do is in this YouTube video, I'm going to link to one of the 7 social selling funnels that I created a lead magnet around that should be helpful for you. Just to give you an idea, this is what it looks like. This one's the LinkedIn partnership playbook. And it's 7 steps to basically create a partnership playbook that you can use for LinkedIn. Cool. Module 4 is Trojan horse offers. So this is basically the idea of delivering something unique that is easy for you to do, it's repeatable, and it's difficult for the client to do. And you do it for free. And this is for going after great prospects. You don't want to do this for everyone and, sell your free time to a bunch of people who aren't your ideal prospects. Only want to do this for your ideal prospects. But It has a very high conversion rate. It's how I've landed a 100K client, and it's how I landed probably half a dozen like really valuable clients. So highly effective technique. Basically, find something that's repeatable, easy for you to do, difficult for a client to do. Add a ton of value while you do it. Hopefully, it takes a couple of hours, not a couple of weeks, and then turn it into a sales conversation afterward. Okay, module five. So, how to create a high conversion newsletter. So, in this one, we talked about creating your newsletter value proposition, creating your newsletter landing page copy, and creating a name for your newsletter. And everyone has a newsletter nowadays, but very few people can concisely state what the value proposition for their newsletter is. Daniel spearheaded this one. He is the email expert. I'm learning a lot from him on that front. And I'm actually making tweaks to my newsletter because of this. So if you're on my list, then you'll see in the next couple of weeks the changes that I make. If you're not on my list, sign up for that lead magnet I mentioned earlier below, and you'll be on my list. So basically, the idea here is don't send emails to send emails. Like have a really clear value proposition that helps people buy from you. All right, next. So this next like part two that we did was actually like building the landing page, like the technical parts of it, and setting up your welcome email afterward, and the technical parts of it as well. My advice for you here is if you are using your newsletter to build a business, like a media business, a newsletter business, sell advertising, then probably want to use something like Beehive. But if you are trying to use your newsletter as a conversion mechanism for a service-based business or an info-based business, then highly recommend using Kit because you can build landing pages, sequences, automations, all the above directly in Kit very quickly and easily. So I will include a link to sign up for Kit as well, which is free until 10,000 subscribers or multiple automations. All right, module seven, how to design your high conversion newsletter. Okay, so this is the promise here. You can get 2x the value of your social content for 10% extra effort. Now, that is a long-term promise. It's not a short-term promise. Setting this up like the first time and probably the first five times is going to be like 2x the value for 2x the effort. But once you've nailed this, like it really can be 2x the value for 10% extra effort. And the two simple steps here is to take one of your repeatable, high-performing content types and turn it into a newsletter to double dip. So I mentioned two different types of content that are high performing. So, if that's a case study or whether that's a pitch in public or one of those public asset breakdowns. And if those are converting for you on like test it on social first, make sure that it's actually driving leads, it's driving engagement. And if it is, that should be a weekly newsletter that you expand on. All right, module eight, newsletter welcome sequence blueprint. So this is basically when somebody signs up for your list, how you introduce them to your ecosystem, your products, your services. My takeaway for you is at a bare minimum, just make sure you have a banger welcome email. That's the 80/20. You don't necessarily have to have an entire sequence. That's best case, but at the very least, just have a great welcome email and make sure that you have a call to action asking them to respond so that you can improve your domain reputation and deliverability. All right, moving on. Here's some things that we did well. So we were selective about who we let in. And because this wasn't a LinkedIn 101 course, we didn't want 101 people. So we chose two important criteria. One, only let people in who already had an offer. And two, only let people in who were already creating social content and just wanted to take it to the next level. That was very, very helpful. We had maybe two or three people in the cohort who were like still kind of hesitant on their offer, and they still got a lot of value, but like the fact that most people already had these two things made it far more valuable for them. All right, second, we treated it like a beta cohort. It is a beta cohort, and basically what I told everybody, I'll show you this. I have this on my wall. You can see here, same conditions, new behavior. That's Alex Hormozzi's definition of learning. And I told people, hey guys, we're not perfect, but what I can promise you is we're going to make changes after every live session and make sure that we improve it. And we did. So very happy about that. We built it just in time. So we didn't build the entire curriculum before launching it. We launched it with an outline, and then we built the curriculum like the week before it went live. And so it was very like just in time. And I think this is the best way to do it. Four, we iterated a dozen times. So after every module, so I wrote the first four modules, Daniel wrote the second four. I would send it to him, and he would go and roast it, edit it, and tell me sections I'm missing, things to add, things to change. And then I'd go in and edit it. So I did that for him. He did that for me. And then after every live session, all eight of them, and beforehand, we prepped a presentation document and went over what we were going to cover. And then after, we did a quick recap of things that went well, things that we could improve. And so I have this long list of basically small notes of little upgrades that we can make, things that we did well, things that we could do better at. All right, AI prompt intellectual property. So we had pretty much every section had some very actionable pieces. And to speed up the execution, we created some like great prompts. And these were really valuable, and people loved them because it helped them keep up with what we were doing. All right, next section. So what we could do better next time. So this was the big takeaway. The kind of end result is people don't want to just learn, they want to get the outcome. So the outcome that we promised was to help them generate leads from LinkedIn. And so to get that outcome, they need to do the activities that get that outcome. And so if we can have them do the activities on the live call without giving them a ton of extra homework, it's that much more valuable. And so as we started going through and doing these live sessions, that's the realization we came to. And going forward, like, how can we get people to actually do the actions on this call so that they see results? Second, even more interaction. So this is a funny story. I started out the first session was like, "Hey guys, we only have an hour, so we don't have time for questions. This is going to be like concise. We're going to touch on on these points." And the first session was like a monologue, and we got feedback. We got feedback after that, which is people want interaction. They want Q&A. They want live builds. They want to have their specific scenarios analyzed. And so session two, we basically switched it, and going forward, every session we made it increasingly more interactive. And I think that's something we could do better, even better going forward. Three, better Slack management and comms throughout. So we would send a message when the replay was up. We'd send a message when, like, with the link to join the call, and when we had the next batch of curriculum for them to review. But because we were actually so busy creating the curriculum and the presentations, like, we didn't spend as much time in the Slack engaging with people, helping people as we could have. And the nice thing is going forward, the curriculum is created. There's tweaks that need to be made, but more of our energy in the future can be spent managing the people in the cohort. Four, add stakes to make each live session more entertaining. So something interesting that happened on one call was somebody had sent a question in Slack, and I responded to it. But then they asked that question live on the call, and I put Daniel on the spot. I was like, "All right, Daniel, I already responded to this. Let's see if your answer is the same as mine." And he had to come up with an answer on the spot, and it actually did match like pretty closely to what I'd said. And it was just a fun way of having a little bit of stakes. Like, are we on the same page? And we did this in a few different ways. We did some live builds, some live writes and rewrites of people's copy. And I think doing that live adds a lot of interest for people because there's some stakes. It's like we have to prove this skill live. And so I think intentionally adding stakes to calls to increase the entertainment is a framework that I want to incorporate in live calls going forward. So that is what we learned. Those are the good things, the bad things, and a couple of actionable takeaways from you. I hope it's helpful. Drop me a subscribe button. I need to hit 1,000 subscribers, so drop me a subscribe, and I'll continue to make videos for you. Cheers.